Happy New Year. I'm Janice Edwards. This is Signature Silicon Valley. We are so glad that you are here with us. We're starting our new year with Finding God in Silicon Valley, a book by Skip Vaccarello. And then we're talking about transformative technology with Nicole Bradford. Plus, we have more highlights from our 5th anniversary, 5 years of Signature Silicon Valley. It's a great way to start the new year. We are so glad you're with us. Welcome to Signature Silicon Valley. I'm Janice Edwards, and thank you so much for joining us. You know, many times when we start a new year, sometimes we have New Year's resolutions, sometimes there are intentions. And one of the reasons that I'm excited about our first guest today is because he's written a book entitled Finding God in Silicon Valley. I have a personal confession. I am a woman of faith. I believe in the power of prayer to change things. So it was special for me to have an opportunity to read this. I wanted to share it with you and to invite Skip, who has many successes as a CEO in Silicon Valley, to join us because of this particular journey that he has taken. Welcome, Skip. Thank you for being with us.
Janice, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I know, it's exciting.
Thank you.
It's a blessing to have a new year begin.
It absolutely is.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about the book, because one of the things I like in your story, and you have stories from different people here, you have forwards from Brent Jones, former All-Pro 49er, and others, is that you were doing very well, you and your wife were doing very well in Silicon Valley, but something was missing for you. You'd grown up with the Roman Catholic faith, but didn't go to church. What led you to seek God as you were here in Silicon Valley?
Well, I had walked away from faith for about 20 years, not intentionally, but it just happened. I was caught up in the campus turmoil of the late 60s and early 70s, and faith really didn't mean much for me.
You were at Harvard at that time?
I was at Harvard at that time, and you know, I sort of bought into the idea of success, the cultural idea, to look at achieving wealth, respect, and happiness. And that was how I really ran my life for those about 20 years, from age 20 to up about almost age 40. And so that was the center of my life. But as I began to achieve some success while here in Silicon Valley, I was the CEO of a software company. I had a beautiful wife, Jackie, and 2 lovely daughters. You know, I sensed that there was something missing. Blaise Pascal eventually called that, or he called that years before, a God-shaped void that's in each one of us. And you know, and I had a sense of that. I felt that there was more to life than success as it was defined. But I really didn't do anything about that. And I didn't do anything until one day when I happened to be on a business trip in Paris. I called home and I asked Jackie, I said, well, what did you do for the weekend? And she said, I went to church. I said, you did what? She
you
said,
were shocked.
I was shocked. She said that she went to church. And that wasn't even part of our conversation. But it was probably stressed for her. We had a second daughter that needed a lot of care. And a neighbor had invited her to church. And she said she found a peace that she hadn't experienced before. So when I came home, we had more conversations about it, and I went along with her. And,
you said you were going to try it at that time.
I was going to try it.
Right.
I was going to try it. I was skeptical. But I decided I would try it. And you know, for the first time, the messages I heard had real meaning for me. What I heard resonated with as I looked around the world. And so I began to continue to go to church, and it was not an obligation, but something that I just wanted to do.
It developed a hunger.
I developed a hunger in me. And so, I mean, that's how the journey continued. And I'd say one day after I began attending for a number of weeks, a pastor came up and asked me if I wouldn't mind helping out with children's Sunday school. I think he didn't know exactly what my faith was at that point, but they needed help in children's Sunday school. So I said, sure, I'd be happy to help. And you know, as you prepare for Sunday school, you should read the lesson.
Yes.
And so for the first time, I really started to read the Bible. Now, it was a Bible with colored pictures and big words, as a children's Bible is,
right.
But it eventually led me to reading the adult form of the Bible, and it took on great meaning. And so from there, I just began to investigate the evidence for faith, and I came to believe that Jesus is who he says he is, the Son of God. And so for me, I came to faith first intellectually, and then it became emotional as well as I accepted Christ as my Savior, and it took on meaning to me, and it became the most important thing in my life. So I found God in Silicon Valley in 1986.
Wow. And when you say it became the most important thing in your life, I think a lot of times for people that becomes a challenge, because what about your family?
Sure.
How do those things line up for you?
Well, what I found is that family was certainly important, and my role as a father became extremely important, and my role as a husband also. But I also found that putting God in the center of my life affected everything I do, including business. So that I felt that my job was to be the best I could at the job that I was working at. There's a Bible verse, Colossians 3:23, which I believe says it very well, and it says, "Whatever you do, work at it with your whole heart as working for the Lord, not just for men." So work became important, but also clearly my family, my relationship with my wife, my interaction in the community. So with God at the center of my life, it just became the way I tried to live, and certainly there were ups and downs, and that's how the spiritual walk goes. Yeah. But when I say it became important, that's really what changed it for me. Instead of buying into the cultural idea of success, which is success in business, career success, making a lot of money, all those are okay. But more importantly, it was living as a child of Christ, and that's what became most important to me.
Yes, and you have several stories of others who share
Yes.
that in the book as well. But how did it affect your business? Because one of the things that you mention is that throughout the Bay Area, many people may be skeptics, and then others may have different faiths. So were you able to share your faith, or did you keep that separate from business, even though it was the undergirding of your
Sure.
business decisions?
Well, what happened is I had got a group of men together because it was a challenge to figure out how do you live your faith out day to day in business. Had a group of business people, businessmen, and we began meeting, and we've been meeting for maybe the last 25 years or so. So we would help each other, with issues of faith and work, faith and family, and so on. But it was a challenge. I found every day that I went to work, it seemed like there was another challenge to the faith, to be absolutely honest in advertising, what to do when you may be faced with a layoff in the company. But I would seek out God's will in all that I did. And that whole process helped really confirm who I was as a follower of Christ. So it was a challenge, but I thought it was something that was certainly worth doing. And my faith grew in the process. I began to look at work as a ministry. Now you asked me the question, Janice, well, what about sharing your faith? And my sense is you really have to earn the right to share it, and especially here in Silicon Valley. Again, a Bible verse that was very important to me was 1 Peter 3:15, which says, "Always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks the reason for the hope you have, but do it with gentleness and respect." And the gentleness and respect, is an important part of that. People don't react, I don't believe, positively when you hit them over the head with the Bible. I tried to be...
You mean that figuratively, not literally? Either way, that wouldn't be a good thing.
But if you try to, you try to live out the faith, people may ask you about it. There may be opportunities where somebody is hurting, and you can pray with them about the faith. And I tried to be invitational, get to know people on a personal basis, not necessarily to convert them, but just to get the chance to know them. And inevitably, questions or issues of faith would come up, and that was an opportunity to share. So that was what I found was helpful in living out my faith and helping others find, the joy that there is in having a personal relationship with Christ.
What do you hope people who may not have found God or faith in their own lives take away from the book?
Well, my hope is that people who are curious about faith will be interested in the stories. And I really wrote that was the audience I had in mind. And that was really where I was. I would have said, when I said I had walked away from faith, I would have always said that I believed in God, and I would have called myself a Christian, but didn't really know what that meant. What I found is that there are many people, statistics show that something like 90% of Americans would say that they're spiritual, but not necessarily believing in many different things. I found a real joy in having that relationship with Christ. So my hope is that people who read the book, they'll read stories about leaders in Silicon Valley, leaders who have come to faith. And we learn by stories. That's what Jesus was, of course, the best storyteller. We can argue about philosophy and theology and differ on that, but it's really hard to argue with someone's story, how God's touched them, touched their lives. So that's what I've hoped to do with this book is if people have a chance to read the stories of Silicon Valley leaders who have sometimes struggled. They've found God through sometimes success, adversity, and looking at the evidence for faith. So that's my hope is that it's a book that I think is really quite readable no matter where you are in your faith journey.
Yes, it is inspirational, and like you said, both in the valleys and in the mountains. Well, Skip, thanks so much for being with us, and thank you for writing and bringing us Finding God in Silicon Valley.
Well, Janice, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Again, the book is Finding God in Silicon Valley, and that is also the website where you can find out more information about all that Skip does. I mentioned earlier that we would be talking about transformative technology with Nicole Bradford, but it really just touches the tip of the iceberg of her wealth and depth and breadth of experience. She has been director of operations for entertainment companies in China, gaming with Activision Blizzard, and so Disney Interactive, so much more. Nicole, you have such impressive credits, and we're very glad to have you join us today. So Happy New Year to you and welcome.
Happy New Year to you too. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So I gave a broad overview, but let's talk about really what is the heart of what you do that inspires you, because you've done work and incredible workshops at Sophia University. We'll talk a little bit about that, but let's go back to the beginning. Where did you begin, and how did you become involved with gaming and also with transformative technology?
Okay, well, so I started out in games around 14 years ago and absolutely passionate about it. I love storytelling, interactivity, technology. My last role before the life that I'm leading now was I oversaw operations for Blizzard Entertainment for China. So that's World of Warcraft, really large game, great, very senior role, massive business, over 70 employees directly. I mean, really a really big job. And then I went on a meditation retreat. And I had a transformative experience on that retreat. I felt such a level of happiness. I'd always been happy before. I'd always been happy before.
Right.
But I had such a level of happiness and a level of fearlessness, like so fearless. And I wanted to know what happened. You know, I believe in science and also that anything that can be mapped can be discovered. So I really believed in that. So I went on this search to understand how in 10 days I could have such a profound experience. I was always happy, but in hindsight I realized I was always optimistic. And I was someone that people would say was fearless. You know, I moved to China by myself, jumped out of airplanes, rode horses across the plains of Mongolia. Like I lived a very fearless life.
Yes.
But there's a sort of like an existential human fear that people have. And so that completely went away. And I was absolutely fearless. So I went in search of like what happened to me, how did that happen? And I found the world's leading experts on that kind of transformation. And because I have a background in scale and technology, I wanted to know, one, how I can share it with my friends and all the people that I love, because when you find something amazing, that's what you do. You share it with people that you love. And I wanted to know, okay, how do we scale this? How do we get the same level of benefits? How do we get the benefit of a meditative practice out to the entire world? Because I think the reason why I'm so passionate about it is that if you think of all of the major problems that we have in this world, and you talk to leaders who are dealing with education or energy or food or governance or security or, you know, all the things that are facing mankind, the grand global challenges, the key issue that many of them talk about is the human problem. And that human problem is the fear that people have about change, about one another, about those things.
And even themselves, even ourselves.
Themselves. And the thing that a meditative practice does is lower the fear level. And when the fear level is lowered, then the mind doesn't get hijacked, and you can be creative and collaborative and embrace change. And so what transformative technology is how do you provide the benefits of transformation through technology? And so on the basic side, it's the basics like anxiety, stress, depression, happiness, and using technology to enable people to address those or experience more happiness.
How do you do that?
It's little things like there's this great device out there called Spire, which is it monitors your breathing. So you wear it on your hip, and it can tell whether or not you're breathing in your belly. And so shallow breathing also corresponds to your fight or flight system being activated. But when you belly breathe, you're calmer, you're more relaxed. And so this little thing buzzes you when you're breathing in your chest. It's a little thing.
Wow, that's
but
amazing.
Helps.
Right.
It really helps. So, that's for stress or meditation apps, or, there's a great company called Happify that is sort of has an app that helps you gamify being happy and noticing when you're happy. So that's kind of the basic side.
Right.
But then there's really interesting things about, really supporting humanity as we move to another phase where we sort of optimize ourselves. And so it's all the same thing on a spectrum. And so it's one of the things, I feel so passionate about it because it's all about saving the world, right? That's what we have to do.
Exactly. And I love it because even as you're talking, I think we're all vibrating at a higher level just because we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
How was your life different when you returned from that retreat from before in ways that people would look at in terms of relationships, work, etc.?
Well, the biggest thing is, that they call it signal to noise, the signal to noise ratio. Having my practice, what my practice does for me is I'm so calm inside and I'm so relaxed inside. I'm not I'm here with you. I'm not thinking about my email. I'm not thinking about what anyone's going to think about this. I'm really here. And because of that, your intuition increases. Your ability to connect with people increases. You have a heck of a lot more fun.
Right. And a lot more peace, too.
And a lot more peace. But it also, there's a lot of people who are starting to develop meditative practices because it's really helping them show up and be effective. And I really believe, especially for people, entrepreneurs and leaders, and people who have a role in creating the type of world that we want to live in, they all need to have a meditative practice of some kind.
Very interesting. Yes. And I know that having that quiet time and scheduling that is something that many times, just like workouts, people feel like, I don't know when I'll find the time. But especially as we're in a new year and people are thinking about what they want to transform. It begins from the inside out, and that's really what you're sharing with us. I mean, it's practices, there's technology to help, but it starts with that decision and that commitment to doing that. Sophia University, a lot of people have not heard about it, even in the Valley, so tell us a little bit about what happens there.
Well, Sophia is an amazing place, and we put our lab there, and we're part of that university because the vision of the university and our vision with the university is that Sophia started out as a psychology university. It's accredited, fully accredited. It's been there for 40 years. And they added, with a new president and some new leadership, they added a master's in computer science and a master's in business. So looking to be that intersection between psychology, technology, and business, which I think is really great.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have engineers. You graduated with a degree in engineering, and you also have a minor in psychology. So you actually really understand people, because engineers build the world, and so they need to understand human beings. And I think what's really exciting right now is that we've gotten huge productivity gains from technology, and it's really been all about making us more productive. The next stage, the next evolution, is for technology to help us be who we want to be every day. And so it's helping with our inner lives so that we can be better to one another.
That's wonderful. It's
Yeah, it's
beautiful.
awesome,
I know
isn't
it
it?
is. I'm so inspired. And we're getting the wrap, but I wish we had more time. But want to come to the university and really see certain things there. But I thank you because this is courageous. What you're doing takes courage. It takes personal courage whenever we try something new, and then to live something different is amazing. But like you said, it's because it's part of transforming our world. So
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you for what you do and who you are.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
Yeah, come to the lab. We have a full psych tech lab. We've got tons of EEG, and you can come and play.
Okay, we look forward to that. And if you'd like to contact Nicole or find out more about Sophia University, details are on our screen. We have continued to say that we are celebrating 5 years of Signature Silicon Valley, and we had a party last year. We want to share some more of the highlights with you, and thank you again for putting your signature on our Valley and for tuning in and sharing your stories on our show. It makes us who we are. Here's a look.
Yeah, man. If you ain't never heard of Tall and Small, you in for a treat. They got all the money, all the girls, all the haters, and all the swag. They making a movement, man. Either you gonna get down or lay down, you feel me? Yeah. Either way.
And we're celebrating 5 years of Signature Silicon Valley with someone who's been a guest. We've seen him really grow up on Signature Silicon Valley. JD Charisma is an amazing performer, and he's an author now too, and has a nonprofit organization. You do so much. JD, welcome back. Tell me what has inspired you, and I'll say welcome to your mom, who's in our studio audience as well, always doing things behind the scenes. What has inspired you to put your signature not only on our Valley, but also beyond?
You know, the biggest thing for me, my biggest inspiration is people. You know, I love inspiring and motivating people and just helping people. So if I could do that through making music and writing about my experiences or my life, or things that people can connect with, then that's what inspires me the most, when I could just inspire other people to be great at what they do.
Yes. I think last time we talked, you were just about to start a part in a movie. So since then, you've done a few movies.
I don't remember that movie. I don't remember. You're saying though?
Right.
Yeah.
But I know that you've been doing a lot. You have a video. We're going to show a little bit of this. This is
Either way they coming, so I present to you Tall and Small.
They said I was too tall for the b-ball team, but now I'm making some green, if you know what I mean. See, I'm a real rapper and I'm living my dream. There's a few like me, call me a Marine. They said I was too small.
the latest kind of a parody.
Yeah. So
what is this?
Okay, we're doing a parody rap group.
Okay.
And basically, I play a rapper named Tall, and my friend plays a rapper named Small, and together we're Tall and Small. So we have a music video called "Making a Movement." That's our EP. That's what it's called, and we have 2 really cool songs.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank
Continued
you.
success with your vision. Tell me a little bit about the nonprofit organization. that
Yeah,
you're in.
we're doing a lot of projects. We're helping out the Philippines right now. You know, well, we helped out the Philippines when they were going through the typhoon situation. And we've donated, we've fed a village out there in the Philippines. And I'm also doing a nonprofit like tour to the schools. Because I talk to the schools and I motivate the schools through my music and, you know, inspiring messages. So I'm going out there and I'm giving them a really good show and an inspiring show. Yeah. And then we're also feeding the homeless. So just a lot of things. The foundation is about helping the youth and the disadvantaged youth of the world. So that's what I want to do.
Wow. Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
So
you for
good to
having
have
me.
you here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much.
But happy birthday, Signature Silicon Valley.
We're celebrating 5 years of Signature Silicon Valley with Ken Blackstone, who's the Director of Media and Communications at the Santa Clara County Education and Board of Education. And he also is a board member at Create TV. So thank you so much for being here for our celebration tonight. We really appreciate it.
Oh, well, it's been a great evening, and I congratulate everybody for 5 wonderful years of the show, although I've only been here in San Jose for 2 years and a member of the board for 1 year. It's great to have the offerings of shows that we have, and this one in particular. I'm just, my hat's off to everybody.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, we are honored. We appreciate your support. Where were you before you came to Silicon Valley?
Well, I have worked for about more than 20 years in the school public relations arena in now 3 different states. So I've worked in Virginia for a very large school district that's outside of the Washington, D.C. area, in Prince William County. and also in Columbia, South Carolina, where I worked for another school district there. So now here in California, and it's been very interesting to work in different states and see the differences and the similarities in K-12 education.
What do you consider most outstanding about Silicon Valley?
It's a great community. You know, being from the DC area, there's a lot of similarities to Fairfax County and the Northern Virginia area in terms of the tech sector, and there it's a lot of defense contracting, but very high-end engineering firms and so on. Many of them that are also have a presence here in Silicon Valley. So. It's really a very vibrant community, very diverse community, a lot of strengths in the community, and like many areas, and particularly in K-12 education, you know, you have very wealthy areas, and then in the midst of all that wealth, you have very impoverished areas. And so from our standpoint, being able to serve those populations on both extremes and every place in between, you know, is a challenge, but it's also something that is an opportunity for us as well.
Yes, well, you're doing a great job. Thank you for putting your signature in our valley, and thank you for joining us tonight.
It's been my pleasure. Thanks. Happy anniversary, Signature Silicon Valley. Congratulations on 5 wonderful years.
I'm Janice Edwards. We're celebrating 5 years of Signature Silicon Valley, and we have Eric Drew of the Eric Drew Foundation and Tony Navy, who is a business strategist. They are both previous guests with incredible stories, and I want to give them both an opportunity to talk a little bit about the inspiration for putting your signature on the Valley. Eric, you're a medical miracle. When I first met you, you had just been through some incredible medical challenges. You're a cancer survivor, and you have been in a wheelchair, you've been on crutches, you walked in tonight, you're looking great. Share a little bit of what has helped you through this process and how the Eric Drew Foundation helps others.
Well, you know, it really is about helping each other and bringing patients together to share information on the most advanced treatments and strategies on how they got through what they got through. I mean, every doctor in the country said there was nothing that could be done for me, so I worked with doctors outside of the country, and I'm here today. And that's what the foundation is doing now. We're launching WeHeal.org, which is about bringing patients together in disease and topic-specific communities to help each other and support each other and share information about life-saving treatments.
Wow. Well, thank you for your inspiration. Thank you for what you're doing to put your signature on our valley. And Tony, you're a business strategist. You really help people become empowered in looking at how they can take their business and their lives to another level. What's the secret for people transforming their success?
I think some of the secret, at least locally and on a global scale, is that what our entrepreneurs, leaders, and professionals all have in common is that we are now looking at connecting with each other in a global marketplace. Makes everything different, whether it's here, your local here in the San Jose Bay area, connecting, you know, working. We are now working side by side, but we're working and connecting with people around the world, using social media, being able to connect and really get things done, just like what, you know, Eric's done.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's been powerful for me to be able to not only train online, do live events, but really show people, how do I thrive in this marketplace, and how do I help other people do the same thing, achieving and accomplishing their goals?
Yes, well, I thank you so much for being here, celebrating our 5 years, and thank you for the work that you're doing. And if you'd like to say something to the camera about our 5-year anniversary, please do.
Well, it's very appropriate that you're celebrating a 5-year anniversary right now, Janice, because I think it's an anniversary celebrating many, many things, as we talked about. So congratulations, and another 5 years ahead of you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
And I'd just like to say what a blessing, what an opportunity to just not only be here with you, but the things that you've shared with everybody over the past 5 years, the entire organization, and what you guys bring to the table is amazing. So happy 5th, and many more years, of course, to come.
And of course, I always want to hear from you. So if you'd like to let us know what you're doing, please contact me. Here's how to do so. And that's our show. I'm Janice Edwards. Thanks for all that you do to put your signature on our valley. And thank you for joining us. Please join us again next time. We look forward to seeing you then.